Hi, I'm Anthony Ehresmann. Welcome to Urbana Leader. We have a great show for you today. We have two guests, both from the agricultural realm of our county. We have P.T. Thompson, who is the Champaign County Farm Bureau president,
Correct.
or president of the Champaign County Farm Bureau, however you want to put it. And then we have Don Sanders, who is also was recently named Champaign County Farmer of the Year. He's an author. He produces TV. He's a veterinarian. There's too many things for me to list. But we'll get to those. We'll get to all of them though. All right. First, let's start with PT. And I have a couple of questions that I wanted to get to you. And so, if we can spend just a little time on each of them, so that we can get through all of them, that would be awesome. Okay.
Yep.
First can you give us an idea of Champaign County's agricultural output? How we stand? I mean, I have heard that it accounts for 2/3 of the county's economic output.
Correct. Yeah. Champaign County is very diverse.
Okay.
I mean, when you look around, you drive anywhere in Champaign County, you're probably going to see something that's going to strike your eye. Mm-hmm. You drive down 29 when you get to Mutual, you see a berry patch. It's Poland's Berry Farm. Or you drive out on 68 going towards Springfield, you look to your left and you see Michael's Potato Farm, where they grow vegetables, beans, potatoes, and they also do corn and soybeans. Mm-hmm. Throughout the whole county, you see a lot of forages, a lot of hays, corn, soybean, wheat, just about anywhere you go. And on top of that, we also have llamas, sheep, swine.
Who has llamas?
Out on Parkview Road, it's Dan Stowe.
Dan Stowe.
Dan Stowe. So, and
I heard they were somewhere, and I haven't been able to find them.
I'm sure you probably. I mean, you go to Champaign
I'm driving
County
around
Fair,
a lot.
You go to the Champaign County Fair, you see llamas and alpacas. We used to have a big alpaca farm right there on 29. It's now Maple Lane Tree Farm, but that's
so we just about have everything under the sun is in Champaign County.
Yeah. We have maple syrup farms that are up, and
it's good too.
And I mean,
good.
We're very diverse. Which is,
now I understand that dollar-wise, it's about $73 million.
Yeah, you're just about right.
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Hey, yeah, pretty good, huh?
It's a pretty big part of our economy here in Champaign County.
I was recently asked why I was a Farm Bureau member. Because I'm not a big farmer, and there's not a lot of stuff I know. I want to learn as much as I can about agriculture, and I'm very interested in it. And somebody asked me, he said, "Well, why are you a Farm Bureau member?" And I said, look, consider this: they feed us, they house us, they clothe us with fibers, right? And now they're fueling us.
Yep.
Now I'm going to ask you, why aren't you a Farm Bureau member? Right?
That's a good question to ask. Really, everything in Champaign County, has an impact on you. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to know where your food comes from, the best person to ask is most likely a farmer, because they're the one producing the food. Right now, there's a lot of changes going on, and it's going to directly affect each and every person in the county.
Okay.
Directly or indirectly. And to get a good knowledge of what your food is, where it comes from, is it safe, is to get hooked up with a farmer. And then once you get hooked up with a farmer, you'll realize everything that farmer has to go through to put food on your table, and just how little,
how little they
actually get on the dollar.
It's like 19 cents.
19 cents on the dollar that they actually get. And then you'll want to be a Farm Bureau member, because Farm Bureau is set out to advocate for the farmers, to help the farmers, and to help put food on your table at a reasonable cost and in the safest manner possible. Right. And once you get to know that connection between producer and consumer kind of clicks and connects, and then it's kind of like, why aren't I a Farm Bureau member?
Right.
And it's just the best way to get knowledge is to become firsthand.
People often wonder, why farmers have been so important. I mean, if you go back to World War II, almost everybody was a farmer.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't have a standing army. Most people did not know how to read. Most of the people who fought in World War II were people from farms.
Right.
So, and they had to be taught how to read, and then they went into combat and became the greatest generation. You wouldn't have cities if it weren't for farmers.
Right.
Back in the old days, most people ate, oatmeal. That's what they had, because that's what they could get in the city.
Right.
And because of our transportation through lobbying by farmers to build the internet, because they were one of the biggest lobbyists for an interstate highway system, they took basically bacon and eggs to every family in the country.
Right.
I'm reminded that a Russian premier, I think it was Khrushchev, was in Iowa visiting a farm, and he complained that the honey wasn't as good as it was in Russia. And the trade representative said, yeah, but everybody here has honey on their table.
Right.
All right?
Yeah.
And that's because of agriculture. Let me get to the next bit. What state percentages is Ohio ranked as far as the United States go in food production?
Out of the 50 states, we're kind of right in the middle. We're about 16th. Most of that is partially because we don't really produce much per capita. I mean, when you look at the size of the state of Ohio, we are relatively smaller compared to like the Californias, the Texas, the
Right, they got more land and more people.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a lot of people, but we have less farmland to do it on. And that seems to be the norm, throughout the whole United States, is the whole world, really. The world's population keeps getting larger, and that outflow's got to go somewhere. So you're seeing a lot more development in rural cities, like for example, Union County, Marysville. You go back pre-Honda,
right,
and it's all farmland.
It was all farm.
And then now, you go to Marysville, and you see a lot of buildings, a lot of industrial parks, and
suburbs.
There are
suburbs.
They're butted up against Dublin now.
33 combined with the Honda plant really expanded Marysville.
Yeah, and
that's an interesting. I never put those two together, but and if you consider, and just playing off the numbers here, right off the top of my head, if we're 16th and we have all these people but less land to do it on, that must mean that we are actually very efficient in how we use our farmland in Ohio. Then.
Yeah, and it's coming to a point where we have to be. I know it was like 80 years ago or 70 years ago, one farmer was responsible for feeding 10 people.
Right.
And nowadays, one farmer is responsible for feeding somewhere around 150 families.
Really?
Families. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot more on the farmer, and as well as domestically, we're also responsible for feeding the world through our trade agreements and stuff.
Trade agreements, which is my next question. So hang on to that.
Okay.
You recently went to Washington, D.C.
I did. And
so you probably heard a lot about U.S. trade.
That's a big
agricultural trade.
Yeah.
All right, so give us a quick update on where we stand as far as agricultural trade.
Just before Obama came into office, we were working on trade agreements with Colombia, with Panama, and Korea.
Peru, I think, too.
Peru was passed.
Oh, was it?
Peru was passed.
Good.
And the biggest issues with those were we had other some other trade agreements with the countries where they could get into our country, export into our country, duty free.
But it was hard to
export
to theirs.
Yeah, but we couldn't get into theirs because we didn't have all the necessary steps, all the necessary stuff in place to get it over there.
Right.
So we haven't agreed upon it yet. So they're bringing in, exporting all their goods in. Korea has the cars, Colombia has some grains, Panama has some grains, but a biggest 95% of our agricultural industry, our consumers, are outside the United States.
Really?
95%, and they're three of our biggest customers. And we can't get in there, so we kind of lost market share. Colombia turned to Canada for beef, and you know, everybody's finding other places to go because they can get it cheaper. So right now it's $1.9 billion that we're losing without the Korea free trade agreement, and you know,
That's just Korea.
that's just Korea. It's right around 500 million for Panama and 195 million for Colombia. But a big part of Ohio, about 60% of Ohio's grain production actually goes towards exports. So with those still on the table and not being passed or worked towards, they're not really being worked towards because, you know, we have the budget issues and we have other issues that's going on. This is kind of taking a back seat to that.
Can we say that that's because people don't view free trade as fair trade?
Yeah.
Is that what that's the distinction between the two?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, it's one, you know, fair trade's kind of one for one. Well, let's see. Our free trade agreement kind of brings everything in duty free.
Okay.
Like, so you don't have high tariffs and high taxes on goods that we're taking over or bringing in. Well, without the free trade agreement, it's virtually impossible for us to get into those countries because of high taxes. Because they're taxing us. So you take a $6 bushel of corn, and after taxes, you know, it's $3. You know.
Right.
So there's not really any wiggle room. And the fair trade, the whole idea of fair trade, I don't know. You don't hear a lot about free trade versus fair trade because they think everybody's in their mindset if it's not fair trade, then it shouldn't be free trade. Because a 1-to-1 ratio doesn't really work out into our favor. So, but yeah, I mean, it's taken a hit because of the misconceptions between the two and the lack of education between the two. You know, we don't really get out and explain the differences or really the economic impacts.
All right, I got 1 minute. Let's see, can you do the Farm Bill in 1 minute?
Well, I can do a shortened version of the Farm Bill.
Okay, give us a short version of the Farm Bill.
The Farm Bill is basically the part of the budget that allocates money towards programs.
Okay.
Currently, the Farm Bill in 2008 was right around $98 billion. But the misconception of that is a majority of that goes to food programs for schools, nutrition programs, you know, food stamps. Only $13 billion of that actually went to farm programs. The majority of that goes to conservation and you know, food programs for the schools and nutrition.
Right.
So that's going to be a big part of the budget, and you know, if that gets cut drastically, it's gonna come down and hurt the farmer the most.
Right.
But
a lot of people, you know, they give people generally politicians give a hard time, some more than others, about, you know, food stamps or, you know, the school breakfast and lunch programs.
Yeah, and they do hot dinners.
and some hot dinners. And they say, well, you know, that's all, you know, just giving away freebies to people who who are too lazy to do for themselves. And they don't really, you know, and that in some cases, in very few cases, that might actually be true. But the overall majority of people are genuinely in need. And then they don't actually think about how much that would impact if we didn't have those programs, how much that would impact a farmer. I mean, if you didn't have people, there's like 43 million people on food stamps. So that's a lot of people who wouldn't be buying food, you know, or would certainly be buying a lot less food. All right, I have to take a real quick break. Welcome back to